And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
We'll go to Jason in New York. Jason, thank you so much for holding. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you join us.
Well, thank you, Bobby. I enjoy the show.
Thank you, sir.
So my wife decided she wanted to have a little front end damage to her 2013 Nissan Altima.
Okay.
And a friend of mine runs a body shop, and we actually fixed it together. And as we were working on it, we realized there was a hole in the condenser up front there by the radiator.
Yes, sir.
And so we swapped it out. But what I realized as we were putting it in is that the sensor, I believe it's a pressure sensor that attaches to that actually screws into the condenser,
right,
was damaged as well. We were able to actually put it back in, and we thought it was working fine, and we hooked it up and charged the system, and we were able to, there was some damage to the, I guess it would be like the female end where it attaches to the harness, the wiring harness.
Right.
But everything seemed like it was going. The compressor kicked on, and it was holding a good charge. In fact, it does. The lines hold the charge, about 40 pounds or so of pressure on it on the low side. And
right.
As soon as you start on the road with it or you rev it up, give it some RPM, the compressor kicks off, and you're back to getting just room temperature air. So my question for you is, do I have a compressor issue that's something deeper, or is it the sensor possibly that's it was bad, it was damaged or something?
Do the fans work as they should when you turn the AC on? Both fans work?
So, yes. Right. In fact, I'm sitting in the car right now, and I can hear the fans running.
And if you bring the RPM up of the vehicle, does the compressor kick out?
You mean turn off?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, and that does it. It does it every time.
Every time. So I'll actually go, if I were to right now get under there and unplug the sensor,
right,
the wire harness from the sensor, and plug it back in, the compressor will kick right back because I'm in park right now.
Right.
I'll kick it. It'll kick right on. Compressor will go. I'll get cold air going. No issue. And then, like I said, I'll either rev it up above 2,000 RPM or get on the road with it, and within a few seconds, I'm getting hot air in the face.
Well, I wonder, Jason, if the pressure, what the pressure readings are at when you're in the shop. You check your pressure readings, and obviously you can bring the RPM up because the vehicle would think that it's on the road in the shop.
Mm-hmm.
So, have you done that?
I have not. I know that. I'm not real familiar with AC systems, so when the compressor's not on and you pop it in on the you put the gauge on the low side just to see what the pressure is. Right. It's a real high pressure.
Well, yeah, it would be because it equalizes, but it would equalize, the pressure would equalize to whatever the stagnant pressure is, or the static pressure rather, and the high side and low side would be one and the same because they all equalize after the fact. In fact, in many cars you can turn the key off and you can hear that inside the evaporator core if you pay attention to that shh, where it because you've got a compressor that's creating liquid high pressure refrigerant, and then when that high pressure refrigerant, which goes through the condenser, and the condenser cools it, and then it goes from a liquid state to a gas state when it goes through the evaporator into the evaporator core, and evaporates, and it evaporates, and that's how it cools. And of course, you don't. It's like you put alcohol in your arm; it evaporates, but you lose the alcohol. Well, when you refrigerant evaporates, you've got it inside a closed container, so it just cools the container, and it doesn't go away. Now, I said all that to say that if I were you, what I would do is go back to the shop and hook up the gauges. Are you using both high and low side?
No, just low.
Well, you need both.
Okay.
You need to know what the high side is reading and the low side, because if for some reason, all you did really was replace the condenser, and you use that sensor over again, and the fact that sensor had a damaged wire, you've obviously made it work, because if that wire is disconnected, the compressor won't kick in at all, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So the fact that it kicks in more or less tells us. Now, we don't know if that sensor is reading correctly or not, because if it was damaged at the wire end, I mean, it's not very big, size of your thumb, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, about that.
Yeah. And so that sensor could be bad, but rather than to throw parts at it, which probably would have been best to replace the sensor, but if you had a problem with the wiring there when you repaired it, did you replace the filter dryer at the same time you put a new condenser on it?
No, it did not.
Well, that is all. Just going forward, that's always a to-do, because in the length of time that a system is open to the atmosphere, it will absorb moisture, and it can't have moisture in it, because that would cause it to freeze, and that would cause you a problem. But that would take several months, I think, for that to ever happen.
For exposure?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know how long it was in the shop exposed. In fact, anytime you ever open up a system, you should put duct tape or something to seal off as much as you can the atmosphere, so you don't have breathing atmosphere, so you don't have moisture transfer. So anyway, getting back to the root of your problem, why don't you simulate road conditions in the shop, but by all means use a real AC machine. And I'll tell you something else. If you put a new condenser, you also have to add 3 ounces of compressor oil.
I did.
Okay, good.
I didn't want the condenser or the compressor to lock up.
Oh, definitely. Well, that was smart. So you've protected the rest of the car, and I think you're right there at it. But you just need to diagnose it, and the best way to do that is to use high and low pressure readings, because indeed at an idle you're going to have X amount of low and X amount of high, and when you speed it up, that compressor is going to work harder and more efficient, and then you'll be able to tell more about what's going on. And when you see, for instance, if you see the low suck down to a 15 psi, you'll know that you've got a restriction in that line or moisture that's causing it to freeze, and you can actually look at the evaporator core and whether it's got a capillary tube or an orifice tube, or how they used to use expansion valves, but they've gotten away from that.
Okay.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
If there is moisture in the system, then I need to change out the dryer, you're saying?
No, well, yeah, absolutely. I would change the dryer out. And also, if there's moisture in the system, you put a new dryer, and I'd go ahead and put a new switch on it. And definitely when you hook up your evac, you let your evac pull a vacuum, and moisture boils away in a vac. So you would leave the 30 inches of vacuum on that system, in your case, 30 minutes to an hour. And so if there is moisture in the system, that's what you're doing when you're evacing. You're pulling all the air and you're boiling out any moisture that was in there, and that takes time to do. And of course, the desiccant bag in the filter dryer is there to hold any moisture that might have gotten accumulative through the system, because those systems, through osmosis, they actually do leak and bleed, and that's why systems that are 5 and 8 years old that need to be recharged from time to time, because they don't have to leak in order to leak. They can bleed through the pores, you might say. Okay. Hey, try that. Give me a call back after you get to the other side, and let me know what you find specifically, and then see if this helps you, because that's important to me and to listeners that are tuned in.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jason. Good luck.